Hi guys, it's Michelle from Deception Bytes, and I do apologize that I haven't posted anything in several days. I've had a horrible sore throat, and I sounded awful, and I didn't want to subject you all to that. As well, yesterday we had our first major, snowfall, and well, let's just put it this way: a curb jumped out and collided with the front end of my car. So I had that to deal with yesterday. And thank you to all of you who asked where I was and how I was doing and if I was okay. I really appreciate that. I honestly believe I have the sweetest listeners on YouTube. I really do. And I'm thankful for you guys. Anyway, let's get at this. Now, I also want to explain to you that this is the third time tonight that I've done this video. The first time I did it, I uploaded it. I was very happy with it. I uploaded it and I got several comments that there was no video or no audio. And so I thought, how could that be? Because I tested it beforehand. But sure enough, there was no audio. So I did the second one and I wasn't quite as pleased with that, but I thought, okay, it'll do. And went to upload that, and I thought, well, I better, make sure that everything's okay before I upload it. And I did. And, well, it had no audio either. So I have made sure I have tested this before, I started recording, and I know that the audio is correct on this. So if it doesn't record this time, I don't know what I'm going to do because it's very frustrating. It's frustrating as it is because so much gets censored on YouTube. And I'm sure you all know about that. And I'm not going to, preach to the choir. But anyway, it's frustrating. So now this is, I got to get back up to start again. And I think I'm going to hopefully try to condense it a bit than the first two videos were. But let's get at this. Now, this is my plan, okay? This was my plan. Hopefully it'll still be my plan. I wanted to do 3 videos tonight. I'm not going to get to do 3 videos tonight because I've had to record one video 3 times. But I am hoping that if this one goes okay and I'm able to get it uploaded and the videos or the audio's okay and everything, then I may do another one because I want to get through the rest of the 4chan Q posts and up to date on them. However, then I was undecided whether I was going to do the 8chan post because he has stopped posting, he or she or it has stopped posting on 4chan and is now posting on 8chan. And I was undecided as to the validity of those. And I'm now fairly certain that it truly is Q that's posting on 8chan. So what I'm going to do when I finish with these, I'm going to go over and go through the more recent ones. So that's my plan. Now, I was going to try and get through all of them tonight, the 4chan ones. I'm not sure, but I'm just going to go and see how my voice holds out because it's getting very fatigued because I've had a horrible sore throat and doing 3 hours of talking has not helped it. So let's hope that this time is a go. So Q starts, this is Saturday 11th of November, and he says, wealth over generations buys power. And that's a statement, not a question. Wealth over generations buys power. Power over generations buys more wealth, control. More wealth, control buys countries and its people. Now, I think that anybody that's been alive on this earth more than 20 years realizes that that's the way things work in this world. That if you have wealth over generations, then you have power. And if you have power over generations, it buys more wealth and control. And that wealth and control eventually buys countries and its people. I think that that's pretty evident, and especially for those of us that are awake or even semi-awake. Now, he says families combined and he has in parentheses tri, equals the New World Order. Now, if you recall in earlier posts, he said that the three triangles that make up the New World Order were three families: the Rothschild, the Soros, and the House of Saud. So those families combined make up the triangle of the New World Order, and that's what he's referring to there. And he's saying the inner families will collapse. That's not a question, it's a statement. He's saying they will collapse. Then he asks, what is the keystone? Now, this is interesting because he's not asking who is the keystone. He's asking what is the keystone. Now, that's a different, that's a horse of an entirely different color, because we're not talking about a person or a family. We're talking about a what. So I personally would say that that's oil, but I could be way, way off. I've been wrong before, and I can bet that I'll be wrong again. That's why it takes us all. I don't claim to have all the answers or know everything. So we need each other. And if you have an answer that is better than that or more accurate than that, then I for sure want to hear it. But that is what I would say. I'd say it's either money or oil. Now, then he asks, what nation dominates all others? I had a link here, but I'm not going to go out to it because I don't think it's necessary. It's basically going through the most powerful nations that have ever existed, and ending with the United States, who at one time, at least in the 1950s, contained 50% of the economic output of the world. So I think even though the U.S. is declining in influence, I don't believe it's declined to that extent that it's not still dominant. Now, the other thing is, and having lived so long in the United States, I've come to realize that Americans are very ethnocentristic. They tend to look at their own country as the best to the exclusion of all others. They tend to not be very aware of what's going on globally. I'm not saying that for all Americans. I'm saying that for the majority of Americans, they do not realize. And I can just testify to that because of the ridiculous things people have said to me as a Canadian. And these are educated people. People who've asked me, I remember saying to someone that I was going to drive home for Christmas, home to Canada, and they laughed. And they said, "Oh, you're such a joker." And I said, "What? I don't understand. What did I say that's so funny?" They said, "Well, how would you get across the water?" I said, "Bridge?" They really did not realize that the two countries were connected. So this is a little frightening. And I'm not making fun of Americans. I'm just saying that the majority of Americans do not realize what goes on, outside of their own little bubble in their country. And so, after having lived there that long, I'm wondering, am I saying that the United States is the most dominant because I've lived there for so long and because I've become a little bit ethnocentristic as well, or does it really have the most influence? And even trying to look at it, with unbiased eyes, I still would have to say that the United States is most dominant. I can't think of, it would have to either be the United States, China, Russia, or Israel, perhaps, Saudi Arabia, one of those. I'm not sure, but I think that the answer that he's looking for is the United States. And if anyone has another answer, please let me know. What nation has influence over most others? I would say that's the United States. Can't see another answer, really. What is the keystone? The keystone, now some people have said that they think that that's the Keystone Pipeline. I don't think so. I don't think that that's what he's asking at all. I don't see that as being a viable answer. But I would say the keystone is oil or economic output, money. It's all the same. It's all the same, but that's what I see. Now he's saying return to Saudi Arabia. And I have a link here to an article, and it's basically speaking about, I'm unsure whether to go out to it because it's a very long article. And having done this video so many times, I'm getting tired of it. But basically it's saying that, well, okay, let me go out to it. Because just because I've seen it several times doesn't mean you have. Okay, Saudi Arabia, a kingdom in retreat. Now, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, which was once at the front and center, which was once at the front and center of the Arab world and a significant player on the global stage due to its oil riches, has been steadily losing its regional influence and prominent role. In recent years, Saudi Arabia has been confronted with multiple challenges simultaneously, including its domestic, social, political, economic, and religious trials. Its conflict with Iran, its bilateral relations with the U.S., the rise of extremism, and the intra-Arab crisis. Saudi Arabia failed to catch up with the rapidly changing developments that engulf the region and now finds itself squeezed from all angles, with little prospect of relief unless the kingdom undertakes sweeping changes. The challenge for Saudi Arabia is that given its culture, socio-political makeup, and the dominant role of religion, it will be extraordinarily difficult for the Saudis to change direction without experiencing great turmoil that could destabilize the country for many years to come. That said, the Saudis have little choice but to begin serious domestic and foreign policy reforms consistent with the changing regional geopolitical environment, and do so gradually to preserve the integrity and stability of the kingdom. Now realize this was written in 2016, so it's a little bit outdated. It's before the Saudi purge, but there's some important things that I want to point out here that will help us, I think, understand what's going on. Since the 2003 Iraq War, and especially in the wake of the Arab Spring, the country is going through an identity crisis. There is growing unrest among many youth who no longer tolerate living in servitude and oppression. They want more freedom and civil rights and refuse to settle for handouts to keep them quiet. With the eruption of the Arab Spring, the government spent $130 billion to silence the opposition. Those top-to-bottom handouts failed to satisfy the nearly 60% of the population under the age of 21. They are unwilling to live in a country where criticism of the government is considered a threat to national security, live fire is used against protesters, secret police are everywhere, freedom of speech is completely stifled, and women are confined to the home. Any political opposition is quelled by force, and punishments for crimes such as blasphemy, sorcery, and apostasy are gruesome and carried out publicly. In 2015 alone, 157 people were beheaded and more than 82 have been executed thus far in 2016, which is twice as many as have been beheaded by ISIS in the same time period. Moreover, political activists serve long-term sentences and administrative detention is rampant. The opportunities for upward mobility and personal growth are limited, leaving little for which to aspire. This has led many young men to join various terrorist organizations in search for a new identity. Although there are women activists struggling for reform, violence against women is symptomatic in Saudi culture and is accepted as a means of controlling their behavior. The state-sanctioned execution of women convicted of adultery, whom are often in reality the victims of rape, and killing of women by male relatives, honor killing, for sexual offenses, perceived or otherwise, is acceptable. Religious oppression. Given that Saudi Arabia is the custodian of Sunni Islam and is the seat of the holiest Muslim shrines in Mecca, the birthplace of Muhammad, and Medina, the Saudis have carved for themselves a special role in the Sunni Muslim world. The annual Hajj to Mecca further enshrines the Saudis' religious role and enhances their strict form of Sunni Islam, Wahhabism, which they have been exporting to every Muslim state by building thousands of schools, madrasas, at an exorbitant cost. The country is run by Sharia law. Music is not allowed. Religious police are given extended authority to use extreme violence, and the Religious Committee for the Promotion of Virtue and the Prevention of Vice does not just sound like a cartoon. Committee for the Promotion of Virtue and the Prevention of Vice. Anyway, enforces Islamic law. All Saudis are expected to attend mosque every Friday, and Wahhabism is taught from an early age. Saudi Arabia uses religion to control the population and teaches to hate those who do not share their Islamic values. The clergy exercise extraordinary power and are free to issue edicts, fatwas, at their pleasure. The religious system is often contrary to the social, political, and economic aspirations of the young and is leading to a growing resentment which is becoming increasingly troublesome for the government. Now, this is the part that is most of interest to us. The looming economic crisis. With estimated oil reserves of 270 billion barrels, the fall of oil prices has had an unprecedented effect on the Saudi economy. The oil crisis has inflicted major economic disruption, forced the government to cut subsidies and curtail many development projects, and reduced its international stature and ability to exert influence over other Arab states. Although the Saudis have nearly 660 billion in cash reserves, the government has withdrawn roughly 70 billion to make up for shortages in the fiscal 2015 national budget. If the price of oil decreases further in the next few years, the Saudi economy could go bankrupt. There is massive inequality between the various classes. Nearly 1/5 of the population lives in poverty, especially in the predominantly Shiite south, where ironically much of the oil reservoirs are located. In these areas, sewage runs in the street and only crumbs are spent to alleviate the plight of the poor. While the poor are getting poorer, thousands of princes and princesses live lavishly, mostly in Europe, spending hundreds of millions of dollars occupying opulent villas, which further drains economic resources. So you can see right there, first of all, the dependence on oil is decreasing. And then you've got the princes and princesses living lavishly. Most are not even living in Saudi Arabia, but living in Europe, and they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars and living in these opulent villas. Now, this was before the purge, okay? This was before the purge. But it's been draining the economic resources of Saudi Arabia, and the people that need it are not getting it. They don't have money for social programs and things. So you can see why the purge was necessary. And also, they really needed somebody like, they call him MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, because he had a vision beyond oil. He has a vision beyond oil for the country, and they really needed that. They really needed that. So anyway, I wanted to give you a little bit of background on that. But while the poor are getting poorer, I've read that. Being that Saudi Arabia has continued to be the most completely dependent for revenue on oil exports, which has more than covered its national budget, it has no compelling reason to develop diversified industries. So it was completely dependent upon oil, and there was no reason to develop any diversified industries at that time because the oil completely covered their budget. But moreover, the Saudis became increasingly dependent on millions of foreign laborers who are subjected to abusive slave-like conditions to do the dirty work that Saudi citizens are unwilling to undertake. Now, you can see where that was leading up to a very bad situation there. And they really needed somebody that would bring in diversified industries that had some vision and was not corrupt as, or less corrupt. I don't believe any man is free of corruption, but man, woman, or child. But anyway, let's go down here. I'm going to skip over the hostile rivalry with Iran and go down to the unsettling relations with the U.S. Although Saudi Arabia and the United States have enjoyed decades of close bilateral relations, the relationship has soured over the changing geostrategic interests of the U.S. and its pivot to the East and the manner in which it has tackled the Syrian civil war and the Iran deal. While the U.S. continues to support Saudi Arabia militarily and remains the de facto guarantor of its national security, the Saudis remain unconvinced of the U.S. commitment to that end. Indeed, from the vantage point of the regional security, the Obama administration chose to draw balance between Saudi Arabia and Iran. In a recent interview with The Atlantic, President Obama said that they need to find an effective way to share the neighborhood. Moreover, Obama believes that bringing Iran out of its isolation will lead to greater regional stability from which the Saudis will also benefit. Another point of contention between the two countries is Obama's failure to make good on his vow to punish Assad if he crosses the, quote, red line of using chemical weapons against civilians, which created serious doubts in the minds of the Saudis that the U.S. won't come to their aid even if their security is threatened. Despite repeated efforts by the U.S. to assure the Saudis of Americans' unwavering commitment to their national security, the strained relationship is likely to persist. The Saudis still believe that the nuclear deal will only delay rather than end Iran's ambition to acquire nuclear weapons, which may lead to regional nuclear proliferation. Now, this is important because you can see from this, they didn't trust Obama, and rightfully so, but you can see how that's all turned around with Trump. They do trust Trump. I mean, look at the welcome that he received there. So things are turning around there, and I just kind of wanted to show you a before picture of what Saudi Arabia looked like. And I think that's important for us to all realize. Now, let's go back. Next, he says, I always say he, but realize that I mean he or she, because I don't know who Q is. I assume, but I don't know. Now, next Q says, puppets in shadows. And then in parentheses, he puts plus, plus, plus. Oh, first, I skipped one, sorry. Strings cut, period. And then in parentheses, plus, plus, plus. Now, I believe that the plus, plus, plus stands for Saudi Arabia, but I can't remember why I think that. And I do apologize. I'm just finishing writing my thesis for my master's, it'll take a couple more months, but writing my thesis for my master's, and I've got so much information in my head that sometimes it's hard to keep it all straight. But anyway, strings cut, plus, plus, plus. Puppets, plus, 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 in shadows. And I think he's referring to Saudi Arabia here. And I said the strings, in response to the strings cut, I said presumably by the arrest of the so-called bad actors such as Al-Walid bin Talal. Now, each side of the triangle, remember that Q told us that each side of the triangle is a family, represents a family. Now, each side of that triangle, so each family controls a certain subsect of power brokers. And of course, what is a power broker? A power broker is someone who divvies out the power, I guess, or delegates power. So power brokers are also labeled as the puppets / servants. So they are puppets. They're puppets, so that there's people under them that they're controlling. They're puppet masters, but they're also servants. They're servants of the people above them. What is the New World Order? Well, boy, do I have a treat for you, because this is, I think, bar none, the best explanation and definition I have found yet for the New World Order. I think it's succinct, it's very well done, but it's comprehensive. So I'm going to take you there now. Sorry, I got all this stuff open from all the other videos I did. All right. Now, this is taken from a website called 3worldwars.com. I cannot vouch for everything that's on this website. I've not read everything that's on this website. I don't know the person that runs this, but I will say that this is one of the best things I've read, the best definitions, bar none. So if you want to check out this website, I would suggest you do so. Just don't think that I endorse everything that's here, because I don't know what's here. So I can't endorse something unless I've actually read it. But let me go on with this. New World Order definition. The following article is extracted from an excellent analysis of the New World Order by author Ken Adachi, which can be found at educateyourself.org. Now, I think I am going to, on my own time, go out and check this out by this person, Ken Adachi, because I really like the excerpts. So, and apparently he can be found at educateyourself.org. So I think I'm going to do that on my own time, and I may let you all know what I find. But if you want to do that, you are free to do so, and could be very interesting. Anyway, the term New World Order has been used by numerous politicians through the ages and is a generic term used to refer to the worldwide conspiracy being orchestrated by an extremely powerful and influential group of genetically related individuals, at least at the highest echelons, which include many of the world's wealthiest people, top political leaders, and corporate elite, as well as members of the so-called black nobility of Europe, dominated by the British Crown, whose goal is to create a one-world fascist government stripped of nationalistic and regional boundaries that is obedient to their agenda. Listen to globalist banker Paul Warburg. We will have a world government, whether you like it or not. The only question is whether that government will be achieved by consent or by conquest or consent. He said that on February 17th, 1950, as he testified before the U.S. Senate. Let me read that to you again. We will have a world government, whether you like it or not. The only question is whether that government will be achieved by conquest or consent. Now, I've heard that before, but it's always a good reminder, because this has been in the works for a very long time. Their intention is to effect complete and total control over every human being on the planet and to dramatically reduce the world's population by 2/3. While the name New World Order is the term most frequently used today to loosely refer to anyone involved in this conspiracy, the study of exactly who makes up this group is a complex and intricate one. For further research sources, please see the sidebar on the left. Now, call me crazy, but I don't see a sidebar on the left. And if you do, then I'm really worried about myself. But anyway. In 1992, Dr. John Coleman published Conspirators' Hierarchy, the story of the Committee of 300. With laudable scholarship, meticulous research, Dr. Coleman identifies the players and carefully details the New World Order agenda of worldwide domination and control. On page 161 of the Conspirators' Hierarchy, Dr. Coleman accurately summarizes the intent and purpose of the Committee of 300 as follows. A one-world government and a one-unit monetary system under permanent, non-elected, hereditary oligarchs who self-select from among their numbers in the form of a feudal system as it was in the Middle Ages. In this one-world entity, population will then be limited by restrictions on the number of children per family, diseases, wars, famine, until 1 billion people who are useful to the ruling class in areas which will be strictly and clearly defined remain as the total world population. There will be no middle class, only rulers and the servants. All laws will be uniform under a legal system of world court, practicing the same unified code of laws backed up by a one-world government police force and a one-world unified military to enforce laws in all former countries where no national boundaries shall exist. The system will be on the basis of a welfare state. Those who are obedient and subservient to the one-world government will be rewarded with the means to live. Those who are rebellious will simply be starved to death or be declared outlaws, thus a target for anyone who wishes to kill them. Privately owned firearms or weapons of any kind will be prohibited. The sheer magnitude and complex web of deceit surrounding the individuals and organizations involved in this conspiracy is mind-boggling, even for the most astute among us. Most people react with disbelief and skepticism towards the topic, unaware that they have been conditioned, brainwashed, to react with skepticism by institutional and media influences. Author and deprogrammer Fritz Springmeier, the top 13 Illuminati bloodline, says that most people have built-in slides that short-circuit the mind's critical examination process when it comes to certain sensitive topics. Slides, Springmeier reports, is a CIA term for a conditioned type of response which dead ends a person's thinking and terminates debate or examination of the topic at hand. For example, the mention of the word conspiracy often solicits a slide response with many people. What most people believe to be public opinion is, in reality, carefully crafted and scripted propaganda designed to elicit a desired behavioral response from the public. Public opinion polls are really taken with the intent of gauging the public's acceptance of the New World Order's planned programs. A strong showing in the polls tells them that the programming is taking, while a poor showing tells the New World Order manipulators that they have to recast or tweak the programming until the desired response is achieved. The New World Order global conspirators manifest their agenda through the skillful manipulation of human emotions, especially fear. In the past centuries, they have repeatedly utilized a contrivance that New World Order researcher and author David Icke has characterized in his latest book, The Biggest Secret, as problem, reaction, and solution. I don't personally agree with everything that David Icke says, but in this specific circumstance, I do. This technique is as follows. New World Order strategists create the problem by funding, assembling, and training an opposition group to stimulate turmoil in an established political power, sovereign country, region, continent, etc., that they wish to impinge upon and thus create opposing factions in conflict that the New World Order themselves maneuvered into existence. In recent decades, so-called opposition groups are usually identified in the media as freedom fighters or liberators. At the same time, the leader of the established political power where the conflict is being orchestrated is demonized and on cue referred to as another Hitler. Take your pick, Saddam Hussein, Milosevic, Gaddafi, etc. The freedom fighters are not infrequently assembled from a local criminal element, i.e. KLA drug traffickers. In the spirit of true Machiavellian deceit, the same New World Order strategists are equally involved in covertly arming and advising the leader of the established power. As well, the New World Order always profits from any armed conflict by loaning money, arming, and supplying all parties involved in a war. The conflict is drawn to the world stage by the controlled media outlets with a barrage of photos and videotape reports of horrific and bloody atrocities suffered by innocent civilians. The cry goes up, something has to be done, and that is a desired reaction. The New World Order puppeteers then provide the solution by sending in UN peacekeepers, Bosnia, or UN coalition force, as in Gulf War, or NATO bombers, and then ground troops, as in Kosovo, or the military to search for weapons of mass destruction, which of course are never found. Once installed, the peacekeepers never leave. The idea is to have New World Order controlled ground troops in all major countries or strategic areas where significant resistance to the New World Order takeover is likely to be encountered. Now, who is the New World Order? The corporate portion of the New World Order is dominated by international bankers, oil barons, and pharmaceutical cartels, as well as other major multinational corporations. The royal family of England, namely Queen Elizabeth II and the House of Windsor, who are, in fact, descendants of the German arm of European royalty, the Saxe-Coburg-Gotha family, changed their name to Windsor in 1914, are high-level players in the oligarchy which controls the upper strata of the New World Order. The decision-making nerve centers of this effort are in London, especially the City of London, Basel, Switzerland, and Brussels, NATO headquarters. The United Nations, along with all the agencies working under the UN umbrella, such as the World Health Organization, are full-time players in the scheme. Similarly, NATO is a military tool of the New World Order. The leaders of all major industrial countries like the United States, England, Germany, Italy, Australia, New Zealand, etc., members of the G7, G8, are active and fully cooperative participants in the conspiracy. In this century, the degree of control exerted by the New World Order has advanced to the point that only certain hand-picked individuals who are groomed and selected are even eligible to become the prime minister or president of countries like England, Germany, or the United States. It didn't matter whether Bill Clinton or Bob Dole won the presidency in 1996. The results would have been the same. Both men are playing on the same team for the same ball club. Anyone who isn't a team player is taken out, i.e. President Kennedy, Ali Bhutto, Pakistan, and Aldo Moro, Italy. More recently, Admiral Borda and William Colby were also killed because they were either unwilling to go along with the conspiracy to destroy America, weren't cooperating in some capacity, or were attempting to thwart the takeover agenda. Now, I'm not going to get into all this about maybe I will. The New World Order's role in shaping history. Most of the major wars, political upheavals, and economic depression recessions of the past 100 years and earlier were carefully planned and instigated by the machinations of these elites. They include the Spanish-American War, 1898, World War I and World War II, the Great Depression, the Bolshevik Revolution of 1917, the rise of Nazi Germany, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the 1989-91 fall of Soviet communism, the 1991 Gulf War, the war in Kosovo, and the two Iraq Wars. Even the French Revolution was orchestrated into existence by elements of the New World Order. The instigation of a trumped-up war is a cover for amassing fortunes, which can be dated back to at least the 12th century, when only a core group of 9 members of the Knights Templar kicked off the crusades that lasted over a century and a half. The core group mentioned above has been reported as being the military arm of the secret society known as the Priory of Sion, but this has proven to be a hoax. In 1307, the King of France, Philippe the Fair, coveted the wealth and was jealous of the Templars' power. The French king set out to arrest all the Templars in France on October 13, while many Templars were seized and tortured, including their Grand Master, Jacques de Molay. Many other Templars who had been tipped off escaped. They eventually resurfaced in Portugal, in Malta as the Knights of Malta, and later in Scotland as the Scottish Rites of Freemasonry, with Albert Pike playing a key role in defining a plan for establishing a world government. The acquisition and consolidation of even greater wealth, national resources, total political power, and control over others are the motivating forces which drive the decisions of the New World Order leaders. The toll in human suffering and the loss of innocent lives are non-issues for these individuals. Now, there's some other interesting things on this site, so including the New World Order timeline and World War I and World War II compared, and there looks to be some other really interesting stuff, so you might want to check this out. It's www.3worldwars.com. Let's get back to Q. Now, I gotta find where I was. Okay, that was what is the New World Order. Why did POTUS receive a sword dance when visiting Saudi Arabia? Well, in the past, tribes have used the sword dance to perform. They performed it before they went to war, and it's now performed in celebrations and national and cultural events. But I think what Q is getting at here is the allusion to war, because if you think about it, this was prior to the Purge. And the Purge, what was the Purge if it wasn't a war against the so-called bad actors? So I think that that's what Q is getting at. Because he said, why did POTUS receive a sword dance? What does it mean culturally? Well, in the past, it was performed before going to war. Why is this relevant? Well, because it was performed prior to the Saudi Arabian purge and the removal of the bad actors. So in essence, it was prior to going to war. And as we're just about to see here, POTUS had a big part in that, apparently, or so he says. Why is this relevant? What occurred in Saudi Arabia? Well, of course, it was the purge. Now he asks, how did POTUS remove one side of the pyramid? Now, remember what the pyramid represents. It's the 3 families, House of Saud, Soros, and Rothschilds. Now, the House of Saud was knocked out in the Saudi purge. Okay, so that's one part of the pyramid. And he's saying, how did POTUS remove one side of the pyramid? Well, it was by knocking out the influence of House of Saud. However, by the fact that he even said that, shows me that that POTUS and the United States had a much bigger role in that purge than I thought or has been reported. Although it hasn't been reported much at all, but it's obvious that the United States played a much bigger role in that than we've been led to believe. So POTUS removed one side of the pyramid. Now, what did POTUS receive while visiting China? Well, I don't know if he's actually talking about what did he receive in terms of like something tangible, but he received, the biggest welcome. The honors for Trump began the second he stepped out of Air Force One. The president and the first lady were greeted with soldiers standing at attention, children waving Chinese and American flags, chanting, "Welcome," a delegation of Chinese and American officials, and a military band. Observers say it was a more elaborate arrival ceremony than heads of state normally receive. So he received a more elaborate ceremony than is usual for heads of state. Trump, and I think XI in Mandarin is pronounced Xi, I believe. Trump and Xi then dined in the Forbidden City, Beijing's ancient imperial palace for Chinese emperors. It's an honor that a U.S. president hasn't been granted since the founding of modern China. She's going to treat Trump almost like an emperor. Let me find myself here. Yeah. She's going to treat Trump almost like an emperor, Ming Wan, a Chinese expert at George Mason University, told CNN. So he was treated like an emperor, and he was given an honor that hasn't been given to any president since the founding of modern China. So that's pretty big. Where did he dine? Forbidden City. What is its significance? First American president to do so since founding of China, modern China. Now this blew me away, and I'm not easy to blow away, let me tell you. What if China, Russia, and others are coordinating with POTUS to eliminate the New World Order? Wow. Now, the very fact that he's asking that question tells me that that's exactly what's happening. China, Russia, and others are coordinating with the President of the United States to eliminate the New World Order. Wow. Now, it's interesting because I had a link to an article, and I'm not going to go out to it because it's extremely biased, but it's about basically, them questioning why Trump is colluding with Russia to eliminate ISIS, because Russia is our enemy, basically. But so other people are aware that he is colluding with Russia to eliminate ISIS, but I think that's a good thing. I don't see that as a negative thing. So let's go on. Who controls North Korea? Well, if we remember from earlier posts, Q posts, he told us that the CIA controls North Korea. Then he asks, who really controls North Korea? The CIA. Now I'm going to link to something that's humorous but very, very important. Now, I've heard of Jay Dyer before. I've heard of him in it's always been a good reference, but I didn't really know too much about him. I've never been to his website, and I happened upon this today, and I was very impressed. And this website is called jaysanalysis.com. Now, I'm not going to say that I agree with everything on here because I haven't read everything on here. I've only read this article, but this is just phenomenal. And he says, North Korea is a fake CIA state. North Korea is a fake state, totally staged and hilarious North Korean photos. And apparently he has a video out there somewhere, it's probably on YouTube, that's North Korea is a fake CIA state, I will probably look that up and see if I can check it out later. But just in case y'all want to check it out. Now, he's saying, remember, the famous Situation Room photo is admittedly fake. Breaking White House claims North Korea has no missile capacity. I can't stop laughing. From the get-go, Jay's analysis called the North Korean theater operations recently occurring as a staged event, pointing out that anything real that happened would be by the machinations of the Western establishment itself. Last night, I became entranced by North Korean media photo ops and ended up staying up researching these hilarious pictures, getting no sleep. What became evident after several hours of photo analysis was how ridiculous the images are. But what's amazing is not just how absurd the pictures are upon inspection, but how big these images are in the media hype and the total lack of any analyst, journal, or intelligence agents to call bullshit. His word, not mine. Where are the foreign analysts? Apparently, the system thinks the public is so utterly inept that not even middle management class of journalists and intellectuals can figure out that these are completely absurd threats insofar as we see presented. Business Insider posted a series of images from the Associated Press that purport to be a top-secret rocket facility where North Korea launched its supposed satellite. The rest of the media has followed suit, hyping this international threat, arguing that North Korea can nuke other nations. But an inspection of these images shows a host of stuff so stupid you can't help but giggle. Furthermore, these images are reminiscent of other more recent comedic mass black ops. The Bin Laden raid on his secret compound that featured water guns and an old man who is supposedly Bin Laden watching a crappy TV with an old cable box. I do remember that in the news, and there's a lot about that whole Bin Laden thing that made me laugh and think, okay, these people must think we just fell off the banana boat or something. I don't know, but obviously they think we're stupid. And of course, this is Bin Laden's secret compound where international criminal machinations are organized with the latest technology. And here we are. There's the latest technology. And here, and the wires going up to who knows where. And there's Bin Laden with his little clicker there and his old man hat and his graying beard. Sad, isn't it? The first question that should be asked by people with any brain cells left to rub together is, how does a country that the media says is a hermit nation, referring to North Korea, closed off to the West, manage to have all these picture-perfect photo ops that filter out to all the Western media? That's a good question, isn't it? Like, it's impossible to get in there. It is. It's considered a hermit nation, and it's completely closed to the West. So how did all these perfect photo ops just kind of filter out to all the right people? Just like when Bin Laden, who was wanted in connection to the 1993 bombings, no one can seem to get inside North Korea, and secret videos have to be shot that leak to tabloids. The last few weeks, a spate of bizarre videos have surfaced all over the web, the most recent of which is the slave labor of North Korea, where a small child supposedly dies because troops are busy unloading armaments. Two utterly absurd facts emerge here. First, we can't see anything but what looks like a stuffed jumpsuit used for Halloween decorations in someone's yard. This is supposedly a small child, yet he's wearing adult-sized boots? Hilarious. Second, the wording of the source in the Daily Mirror is equally as witty. That's sarcastic. As it reads like a 10th grader writing a journal. And I would agree. What I'm about to read to you, I can just guarantee you, I have been writing for a very, very long time, and I can guarantee you that there is no journalist on the face of the earth that would write these words seriously. I mean, this is just straight propaganda. A child of around 10 sits dying of starvation by the side of the road, while just yards away, soldiers load enough rice onto trucks to feed families for weeks. As the young boy slumps on the grimy curb in his filthy, oversized army jacket, locals stroll past, zombie style, without even glancing in his direction or displaying an ounce of pity for his wretched plight. Nearby, his friends scavenge in disease-ridden rubbish tips for scraps of what might pass for food in a land where people are so poor they are forced to eat tree bark or even corpses, according to those on the inside. And do you really think somebody on the inside would talk to a Westerner? Like, really? I don't think so. And not far away, prisoners are herded from their harsh labor camps to frantically dig out crops from frozen ground, while trigger-happy troops hover over them, waiting for the one wrong move that could end with death. Who talks like that? Clearly, this is propaganda, and propaganda is often done at a cheesy high school level for the purpose of passing as too bad to be fake. It's also emerged that other propaganda videos were fakes too, as Daily Caller admits being taken in by the hoax. Similarly, The Atlantic posted an article calling out the beach invasion drill photo a bad Photoshop job, and I will concur. One of my undergrad degrees is in graphic design, new media, and it doesn't even take somebody trained in Photoshop to see that these are cloned using the clone tool. It's the same. These are the same. Look, everything's the same on these. Like, this is cloned. Like, give me a break. I tried to see if the men down here were cloned, and it's not a good resolution, so I couldn't like blow it up enough to really see. But yeah, anyway, it's fake. I mean, that's obvious. But the comedy is only just beginning. Apparently, the rest of the media is so utterly lazy, they just copy and paste stories from the newswires without doing any research or investigation of any claims or images. In this regard, at least, The Atlantic did some research on the bin Laden compound and realized the great coincidence that an exact replica of the compound existed in North Carolina. Can anyone put two and two together here? I mean, seriously. Now, I apologize for this bloody picture. I really do. But the thing that is amusing here, if you can call this amusing, and I certainly don't call the death of anyone amusing, but he's laying on a water gun. Bin Laden henchman fights SEAL Team 6 with a water gun. Gee, it's no wonder he died. But back to North Korea and Kim Jong-un. Look at what is supposed to be a top secret rocket facility. Just take a look at these Commodore 64s that are supposed to be launching a satellite. Notice how plain and fake everything looks? It looks like the set of a B science fiction movie. Where are Joel and the bots? A scientist oversees a bunch of scientists using Commodore 64 level technology, nothing is plugged in, to launch a satellite that the media claims is a threat to the West. Actually, this looks like a soundstage or a movie theater. Look at how fake the computer images on the screen are. Yeah. Look at those Commodore 64s go. Ooh, they're scary, aren't they? They're scaring me. Ooh. Now, consider this same locale in the Daily Mail, which includes a ridiculous greeting in English. Purportedly, this would be for the benefit of the AP reporters who were privileged to take all the images we see in the Western media. These are so ridiculous, anyone with any sense could look and see it's a joke. But the public and the media literally are that retarded. Yes, they are. Here are the scientists playing Pong before they threaten to nuke the West by launching ICBM-level missile technology on their little Commodore 64s. Yeah. Is that sound studio equipment on the left? Yep, sure looks like it to me. As one perceptive reader of Jay's analysis pointed out, the building itself looks like a sound studio. Are those guitar amps on the middle image? I don't know. Okay. But the comedy doesn't end here. Look at the blue garage door in these two pictures. It appears to be the same door, but look how empty the entire building is. This is the North Korean space facility, but it sure is sparsely decorated. Are satellites usually wheeled out on an overhead projector cart? I don't think so. This is just an empty garage. Is there nothing in the North Korean Space Center? And now look at the exterior of the top secret space facility. This looks to be the same blue garage door behind the scientist above with a megaphone. Okay, here we are. Big blue door. Yeah, looks like a scary place. Ooh. Now, this is presumably the exterior of the same blue garage door. The Unha-3 rocket is supposed to be the same rocket ICBMs that are launched on. What's that? Okay. This is presumably the exterior of the same blue garage door. The Unha-3 rocket is supposedly to be the same rocket ICBMs are launched on. Will they be launched with Commodore 64s too? Those dang Commodore 64s, who knew they could be such trouble? Dang it. Man, I didn't know. But wait, the same facility image was released by the AP and the KCNA. It shows presumably the same interior of Command Central. Remember, this is supposedly the Sohae top secret rocket facility that the AP was allowed to photograph freely. The interior is totally different, with newer flat-screen monitors from the late 90s. Did the facility get a makeover in the midst of the launch, updating the Commodore 64s? Or is this another room where nothing is plugged in? Wow. Look at, those are scary, those late 90s computers. Look at how fake the picture on the screen looks. Well, are the scientists doing chatting and playing? What are the scientists doing chatting and playing with Microsoft Paint? Here is the great leader looking at yet another screen with images that look like something from War Games with Matthew Broderick. Remember, this is what all the media and establishments claim are real images of real top secret facility that all the West is supposed to be in fear of. And look at this guy. Like, okay, this chair is from what? I don't know, 1950? 1940? It's old, man. And, like, seriously. All great leaders have to smoke a cigarette before launching their missiles. I mean, you knew that, right? So the leader sits at more plain desks that look like a cheap set, looking at what looks like a screen from the 80s sci-fi film. Presumably, this is the same checkered floor in the above picture. If you look closely, you can see what literally look like Commodore 64s on the floor. Awesome. Remember, this is the same facility that poses a great threat to the West. Are you laughing yet? The joke's on you. Again, where is anyone in the media or even alternative media pointing out any of this absurdity? To date, no one has apparently questioned these. But the show's not over. Kim Jong-un, the great threat to civilization, uses what appears to be a droid cell phone. But all cell phones can easily be surveilled, tracked, and traced. Yep, there's his cell phone. And there's that look of... I don't even know how to explain that look. But it's probably not a good idea to be thumbing through papers with a cigarette. I'm just saying. Okay. If the mysterious leader of the Hermit Nation uses a smartphone, all his communications would be easily tracked and traced, as is now public knowledge. Now comes the really cool part. Look at the disco ball. Doesn't it make you want to dance? Maybe not. Okay. North Korean top secret disco operations. So how was all this done? Drudge just posted the same article I came across last night that clears this up. Last year, AP just happened to set up an office in Pyongyang. So the same two journalists are taking all these pictures. The insiders are laughing because it's really simple how this happens. Yeah. So these two journalists are given access accordingly. Supposedly, they set up an office in Pyongyang, and it's the same two journalists taking all the pictures. Like, I'm sure that happens. You think, honestly, they would let journalists in to take pictures? Really? I think it's pretty obvious this is a CIA operation there. But anyway, this looks like a very interesting website, and he's got links to other interesting stuff, and he's got a book here that I think I'm going to order and check out because it looks interesting, and I'll let you know. Anyway, let's go back to Q. Back to Q. So, who really controls North Korea? CIA. Who controls several agencies within the US, EU, and abroad? CIA. Why is no such agency so vital? And of course, that's referring to the NSA. Well, the only thing that I could find that the National Security Agency had that the other agencies didn't is, and it's an acronym, but I'm not sure what it stands for, and I don't know how to pronounce the acronym, but it's SIGINT, or Signals Intelligence. And I would be lying to you if I said that I understood this, because I don't. But what I do understand is that it has the capacity to jam communications. Of course, the CIA are involved in foreign operations, but the NSA is involved in both foreign and domestic. And what they have is they have the ability to jam communication. So this would be particularly important if, say, POTUS and military intelligence were waging a war on so-called bad actors or rogue elements of the government, such as the CIA. They would be able to jam their communications, which would really impair them, and help those that are warring against these so-called bad actors. So that is my understanding. Now, if somebody else has a different understanding, please let me know. There may be somebody that's listening that has a military background, whatever, that understands what this exactly is, this SIGINT, Signals Intelligence. It is the exclusive domain of the National Security Agency, or the NSA. So I do think that this might be what Q is referring to as to why it's so vital, because they have that capacity. I don't know. There may be something else I'm missing. I'm totally open to whatever. So just leave comments below. Now, next he says, enormous scale of events currently ongoing, period. This is a statement, obviously. There's an enormous scale of events currently occurring. Then he asks the question, why is Russia helping to kill ISIS? Well, I think he already answered this earlier when he said, what if China, Russia, and others are coordinating with POTUS to eliminate the New World Order? I think that answers the question. I think they want to eliminate the New World Order. And then POTUS says, or not POTUS, but Q says, this is not easy to accept nor believe, and it's not. And he says, crumbs make bread. And of course, all these posts are called crumbs, and the more crumbs you collect, and the more you're able to put it together and make something of it. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're able to, I've learned a lot by going through these posts, a lot. And there's answers that I now have that I would not or did not have when I started. So I think that is obvious. Crumbs make bread. Operations active. That's a statement. Operations are active. Joint missions underway. The world is fighting back. And I think what he's saying there is against ISIS and the New World Order. Now, he says, refer back to the graphic. And of course, that is the graphic that he asked 4chan users to make that lists all his posts, because 4chan is notoriously hard to navigate. And it's sometimes difficult to see whether it's really Q or somebody posing as Q. So what he has done is he has had somebody make a graphic, and then he will say, yes, the graphic's correct, or no, it isn't. Now, I got all of these from the graphic, so I'm quite confident that my posts are accurate. At least I would assume so, because I got them from the graphic. Next, he says, the Great Awakening. I take this to mean that the Great Awakening to the New World Order, because it seems like for so long people were completely ignorant of it, or ignorant of any of these things that were going on. And if you tried to wake them up and tell them, they would call you all sorts of names, tinfoil hat wearer and so forth. Snow White, I believe, is Snowden. Nobody can convince me that it's not. Iron Eagle, I think, is referring to a movie that came out in 1986, and the basis of the fictional story in the film relates to real-life attacks by the United States against Libya over the Gulf of Sidra, in particular, the 1981 Gulf of Sidra incident. Now, I'm not going to claim that I understand what all that means. I don't. That might be something that I need to look into further, but I am quite certain that Q is referring to that movie, because there's too much coincidence there, that it has to do with that same area of the world and so forth. I just believe that it's related. Then Q says, Jason Bourne. But just so that we understand which Jason Bourne, because there's a number of them, he tells us it was the movie that was released in 2016. Then, to lead us to the correct thing that he wants us to look at within that movie, he puts in parentheses, Dream/CIA. Now, this is the last thing we have to look at, but I think it's really important. Now, this asks, is Aaron Kalur based on Mark Zuckerberg in Jason Bourne? The tech giant seems very familiar. And if we go down here, it says, there is a lot going on in Jason Bourne, the newest film in the Bourne series. The movie, the fourth or fifth in the series, depends on your opinion of the Bourne legacy, and the first in almost 10 years to star Matt Damon as the titular spy is full of classic Jason Bourne moments. It isn't just full of super spy action and thrills. In fact, one of the biggest threats posed in the movie comes from social media. More specifically, a Facebook-like site called Deep Dream that, spoiler alert, the CIA is trying to use to invade people's privacy. Aaron Kalur, the Deep Dream founder, plays a small but important role in Jason Bourne, and his character has a lot of audiences wondering if Jason Bourne's Aaron Kalur is based on Mark Zuckerberg. Okay, I'm not going to go through the rest because I think that's the important part. But, so in the movie, Dream was kind of an entity like Facebook, and it was run by the CIA. And I think it's pretty obvious what Q is saying, is that Facebook is CIA. That's exactly what I get from this. And you know something? I would be absolutely shocked if Facebook wasn't CIA, if Mark Zuckerberg wasn't CIA. I would be absolutely astounded if that was not so, because it's obvious what Facebook is doing. Now, I still have Facebook. I don't know. I'd like to say I probably will not, but I don't know. I don't like it. I'm not on there very much. I use it mainly for private messaging my friends around the country. But anyway, so there you have it. And then he ends it, of course, as he does with all of his posts, with Q. So that's it for this video. And I am going to try to do another one tonight, but I can't promise. I'm going to try my best, though. And I thank you all for listening. I really do have the best listeners, and I appreciate you listening. I appreciate your comments and everything. I appreciate your support. I really do. So I will see you in the next video, and I hope you all have a good night. and I'll see you next time.